It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the Box, presented by Gotlit Light Installers. We inch ever so closer to the home regular season finale. LSU, they welcome in the Arkansas Razorbacks for a top 10 matchup with oh so much on the line for postseason implications, seeding, all of those things abound between two really good teams and two really evenly matched teams. And we'll talk more in depth about that, obviously, when we get to our preview. But on today's show, did want to take a little bit of a first look at Arkansas. Also wanted to give you one big thing I'm watching already for Cade Anderson this week, and then dive into LSU's bullpen as well. Have they finally settled on some roles for certain guys? It certainly looks like that. And the results the last 2 weeks are bearing it out as well. And you're really starting to pitch better out of the bullpen. And that could not come at a better time with this Arkansas team coming in. We'll dive into all of that here on today's show. Presented by Gotlit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com. Please go ahead and smash the like button if you have not already. Share, subscribe to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. That is greatly appreciated. Take the show with you wherever you may go. Follow on social media, Twitter X, Musso Matthew. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And let's go ahead and dive right into it. So look, in a bit of just a first look at Arkansas, Arkansas right now is arguably the best team in the country. They just swept Texas. Prior to that, they had lost 3 straight series. So it's been a little bit of an up and down for them. And in essence, a few times throughout the year, it's been a little up and down for Arkansas. But when you add it all together, it is the most complete and the best offense in the SEC. They're hitting .316 as a team, .307 in league play. They have hit 102 home runs. More than half of those have come in league play. Very powerful team, top to bottom. They're led by the Aloy brothers, Vahiva and Cajillo. Of course, we're all very familiar with Vahivo. They are an excellent fielding team, 983, near the top of the league. But back to the offense, I mean, you're looking at 5 everyday players for them that are hitting above 300 in the SEC. So when doing this first look, it's going to focus a lot on their offense. And just because that, kind of pairs into the conversation I want to have with the LSU pitching staff. But they are the only team in the country right now at 40 wins, 40-9. And again, coming off a sweep of Texas. When you look at their pitching staff, it's actually quite comparable to LSU. LSU sports a 3.74 team ERA. Arkansas is at 3.75. They're both very deep pitching staffs where you could see a lot of different guys roll in on the weekend in conference play and just kind of, throughout the regular season as well. Arkansas might be a little bit deeper than you on the mound, but again, the results comparable so far between the Tigers and the Hogs. So, this should be a very evenly matched weekend, and a lot of it's going to come down to LSU's offense. And we'll talk plenty more about that. We already have talked plenty about that this week. We'll talk plenty more about that in tomorrow's preview, and we'll rehash some of the stuff that we just went over with the Hogs and, of course, talk more in depth about certain players. But, that's kind of your first look at them right there, 17-7 in the league, 40-9 overall, and the best offense. So that dovetails just immediately into the conversation that I want to have about LSU's pitching staff. And look, y'all, it's going to start with Cade Anderson because this is a huge start for him. And not necessarily in the reason that you're probably thinking. Yes, it's a massive game for LSU. You need to win game number 1 in this series because LSU has not won a series this year where they have dropped game 1. Now, it's only happened twice, but at Auburn, you dropped game 1, you got swept, and your offense wasn't good that weekend. You pitched very well, especially out of the bullpen. Week ago at Texas A&M, you dropped game 1. You pitched very well over the course of the weekend. Offense struggled, and you lost the series. Now, those 2 series are very different, but the fact remains LSU has not lost a game 1 this year and managed to win the weekend. So it's important for that reason. It's important for your seeding, all of those things. And on that point, before I move on into why I really think it's important for Anderson, you won game one against Tennessee, and you weren't very good offensively until the ninth inning in that game, right? So it's not just, oh, okay, it's the offense that's letting you down. No. Like, there's been some other portions throughout the weekend where, you've looked at it and gone, oh, there's some things there and there. Game one's extremely important. But why I think this start is most important for Cade Anderson is because he's on short rest. Remember, the condensed schedule. Anderson pitched on Saturday. So he will be pitching on a day shorter rest than he normally would have. Now, it's interesting because it's not Friday to Thursday, it's Saturday to Friday. Maybe that allows you to get a little bit closer to what your normal week would look like, but it's still 6 days instead of 7. So that matters. And this is why it matters. Cade Anderson has pitched on short rest twice this year. Thursday night against Mississippi State, Thursday night against Alabama. Those are the 2 times. Do you remember those starts? If you don't, let me remind you. Against Mississippi State on short rest that Thursday night, Cade Anderson threw 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, gave up 5 earned in that ball game, and only punched out 5. That was his first time on short rest all year. LSU came back and won that game. Against Alabama on short rest. Because remember, the Auburn series had moved back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you were back Thursday, Friday against Alabama with Easter. Cade Anderson threw 5 2/3. He gave up 6 hits and 5 earned runs. Or excuse me, 4 earned runs, 5 runs, 4 earned. No. I was wrong. 5 earned runs. Read that wrong. He didn't walk anybody and he punched out 10. LSU came back and won that game. The big thing, though, in that, so, you can look at it and go, okay, 5 earned both times, 6 hits both times. But what really sticks out is against Mississippi State, he gave up 3 home runs, and against Alabama, he gave up 4. 7 out of the 12 home runs that Cade Anderson has given up this season have come when he's been on short rest. That speaks to sharpness and command and things of that nature. Okay, he's missing a little bit more over the plate. It's leaking a little bit more over the plate. And and for what's worth, both of those have come at home. And both of those were nights where the box was playing rather offensive. Because remember, the comebacks for LSU, they jumped the yard plenty as well in those games. But this is an Arkansas team that has hit 102 home runs on the year. So 2 outings on short rest, 5 earned both times, and keeping the ball in the park has been the main factor there. For what it's worth, Anderson hadn't given up a home run in his last 2. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that heading into that outing against Alabama when he was on short rest, he had gone 2 straight outings without giving up a home run. So just file that away. This is massive for him to show that he can really do it on short rest. Not even just show that he can do it on short rest, just that he goes out and does it and is able to get LSU off to the great start. Because I'm going to tell you, having to make a comeback against having to make a comeback against that Arkansas bullpen is not the same as having to make one against Alabama's or Mississippi State's. Cade Anderson has got to get you off to a good start, and he's got to do it on short rest for the first time this year. So that is something to absolutely file away and watch this weekend. And you'll hear me repeat that when we go through our preview and we run through our pitching matchups. You will hear me repeat all of it when talking about Cade Anderson, because that is, if he does that, LSU's got a great chance. Because Zach Root, while he's the reigning national pitcher of the week and co-SEC pitcher of the week with Anthony Irons and all those things, He hasn't been infallible. He hasn't been flawless. Him and Anderson's numbers are quite similar on the season. So he is gettable for you. But Anderson has got to be to the level he is on normal rest on 1 day short this week for LSU. It's going to be massive, especially considering the struggles that your offense has had. All right, we're going to get into the bullpen conversation here. First, let me remind you about Gotlit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com. Permanent outdoor landscape lighting. They've expanded the business, your one-stop shop for any exterior lighting needs for your home or business, whether it's the front yard flower beds or the backyard patio and pool area. Gotlit Light Installers, they have you covered. You present them with your design, you get the quote, then they take over and they make it happen. It meets every one of your design specifications. They will maintain the lights for you as well. Gotlit Light Installers really illuminate your landscape. Everything looks better when it's lit. And then again, your private events, the temporary outdoor lighting for your private events, whether it's a graduation party, those are coming up. You have a grad, Gotlit Light Installers for your graduation party, wedding reception, anniversary party, any of those things, birthday, Gotlit Light Installers, they have you covered. gotlitlights.com for your quote, and tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. All right, the LSU bullpen. So, y'all, when I look at this, and we talk about the outing that Anderson has had on short rest, we talk about all of that, and matching it up with this great Arkansas offense, one thing that's starting to give me a little bit more confidence in looking at this weekend is LSU's bullpen. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. What you always want to see, and we always want it immediately, and we want it early, and we want to know after the first game, or even sometimes before the first game, what is everyone's role going to be in the bullpen? And that has been a gradual, evolution up to this point in the season. It just has been. You very quickly realized Case and Evans, Zach Cowan, man, those guys can extend for you. They can close out games. They are your best two guys. And you had that. And you say, okay, now you wait for other arms to come along. And in doing so, you have to pare down your team, and the arms you're going to use, and really figure out the ones you trust most, and all of those things. And over the last 2 weeks, and the first time you saw the LSU bullpen really step out onto the scene this year was at the Auburn series. And over the last 2 weeks, you've seen it more, and you've seen it more consistently, and from a few guys in particular that I want to highlight. First and foremost, Maverick Rizzi. Y'all, we understand what Maverick Rizzi did against Texas A&M. I mean, he was awesome, kept the game where it needed to be to give LSU a chance. Inning in 2/3, struck out 4, didn't give up a run. Like he was great. It was the best outing we've seen from him in an LSU uniform. The fastball was awesome. It was up to 98. The great arm side run, the arm side sink too on it, just devastating coming from 6'9", throwing 96, 98. And honestly, the slider looked crisp as well. He was back in the zone consistently. But you know what? It's not just that outing. This really started for Rizzi against Auburn, where he threw the 2 innings and gave up the 1 earned run. Then he was awesome against McNeese shutout ball. He was very good against Alabama in a tough spot. 2/3 of an inning, bases loaded, top of that order. He hung a 0. He had the stinker against Northwestern State, but everybody on this team had a stinker against Northwestern State. The Tennessee game, the line doesn't look great, but I'll remind you, when he entered the game, the first hitter he faces, he walks to load the bases, and then he gets out of that jam and ultimately keeps the 0 on the board and keeps you in that game. Now, it got away from him a little bit in the next frame when they brought him back out to start. But at one point he did his job, at another, he didn't. But I think that outing really helped him this past weekend. That's a hell of a spot to put him in. In that Tennessee game, that was the Saturday game, where that was tightly contested at that point, and he gets you a huge out and hangs a 0 and keeps it close, and then he gets away from him. There's a lot of pressure on him there. Then he steps out on the road at Texas A&M and does what he did. The experience gain in that Tennessee game's big. But, I mean, y'all, I look at that since the Auburn, and I see a lot of zeros from Maverick Rizzi, and I see a lot more strikes more often than not. And even when he doesn't, he fought and was able to really get you a 0 when you needed it in most cases, like against Alabama, like in that 6th inning against Tennessee. Now, it's, can you do what you did against A&M and Auburn more consistently? And I think the answer is yes, because what you've seen is more consistency in the stuff. It's just crisper more often than not coming out of Maverick Rizzi's hand. I'm very excited for Maverick Rizzi right now going forward into the rest down the stretch and into the postseason with this team. That's a guy who's tied for the team lead with 18 appearances. Like, they've got him out there. But what's really encouraging about it, and this is for a lot of guys, he's fresh. And those 18 appearances, only 21 and a third innings to this point in the season. Like, he's fresh. And you can use him a little bit more. And that's a guy who can be a bridge for you. He didn't have to go out there and give you 4 or 5 innings of relief like you asked, Evans or Cowan to do at points this year. He can be that bridge and help get you to Cowan. And if you need to use Evans before Sunday, he can get you to him as well. Maverick Rizzi is really encouraging to me, and I think that's the role you're going to see. The other thing is your lefties. And y'all, if you've been listening to this show throughout the year, that's been one of my biggest concerns with this team is a reliable left-handed option out of the bullpen. And not only are you starting to see one emerge, you're starting to see multiple emerge. And that's Cooper Williams and DJ Primo. And y'all, they were huge for you over the weekend at Texas A&M. You brought Cooper Williams in to face Caden Sorrell in game number 1. He did his job. He got the fly ball. It was misplayed in center field. You bring him in game 3 to face Laviolette. He strikes him out. But it's more than that with Cooper Williams. You realize that Cooper Williams this season, as a true freshman, has an ERA of 1.54. Like, the problem for him has been strikes consistently. When he's in the zone, it's really difficult to hit because he's got great stuff and he's really talented and he's going to be a great pitcher for LSU throughout his career. But the big difference for Cooper Williams as of late and in his last 3 outings, Tennessee and the 2 against Texas A&M, so these have been an SEC, he has not given up an earned run in his last 2 outings. He also has not walked anybody in his last 3 outings. No earned runs, no walks in his last 3 outings. And more than that, it's more strikes than ball. I mean, against Tennessee, 9 pitches, 6 of them strikes. In this first outing against A&M, 2 pitches, but 1 of them was a strike. The outing against Laviolette, 5 pitches, 3 strikes. He's in the zone. It's not a big sample, I get it, but you're using him matchup lefty. And that's a huge piece and a huge role on this team. And if he's throwing strikes, that's massive for you. You're going to face some really good left-handed hitters like you did a week ago. You're going to face that again down the stretch and even in this Arkansas series. But it's not just him. DJ Primo. Same kind of deal. In DJ Primo's last 3 outings, that's against Tennessee, Southeastern, and A&M, he has not given up an earned run in his last 3 outings. In DJ Primo's last 7 outings, he has not issued a walk. It's more strikes than balls. And that's what you really needed from those guys. And now you have 2 matchup lefties that you're starting to feel really good about. That's huge for this bullpen. It really, really is. And you saw that on full display. So they're even starting to pare this down even more. You're seeing Cooper Williams twice in a weekend. You're seeing Primo, back-to-back weekends. Rizzy, the same thing, back-to-back weekends. They're zeroing in on their guys more now. And oh, by the way, you still have Connor Ware as a left-handed option who has one of the better ERAs on your team in conference play. And he did his job when he was brought in to face Laviolette. We know how that went, and we don't have to rehash that 8th inning. In fact, I don't really want to rehash that 8th inning ever again. But the lefty emerging is big, even if it's just matchup. That's big. To go along with Rizzy, that's big. You're starting to believe you can count on those guys. And I'll give you one more example of them really starting to pare this down and another emerging. You haven't seen Connor Binge in 2 weeks. Connor Binge was one of their most go-to guys through the first 2/3 of the year. He has not pitched since the Northwestern State game. What you've seen is Jaden Newt start to get that opportunity. Look at when Jaden Newt came into the game against Texas A&M on Sunday. It's a 1-run ball game. Top of the order, Hensler, the number 2 hitter, runners at first and second. Yo, that's a prime Connor Binge spot. They've used him all year as the guy to put out fires. And instead, in that moment, it was Jaden Newt, and he put out the fire. He got you the fielder's choice to get out of that inning, keep the lead. Then he would end up giving you, an inning in 2/3 and never relinquished the lead. The game ended up being tied, but he punched out, 3. He only walked 1. He was great. And that really started for him against Northwestern State. And I think it's sustainable, and here's why. Remember, you can look at his line and see 2 earned against Northwestern State and 2 1/3 and think that's not very good. Those 2 guys reached before the rain delay, and then they were inherited runners that were allowed to score. If the rain doesn't come, boy, that was bad. If the rain doesn't come, does he potentially work out of that inning? We don't know the answer to that. But against Southeastern, you really saw the stuff change. He got up to 97 once, and he sat definitely more 96, 95, 96. It was crisp. It was the best he had looked, just from a stuff standpoint. And that stayed consistent against Texas A&M. And that's why he was able to have the success. The splitter is absolutely filthy. He has a slider when he wants to use it and needs to use it. And the fastball being mid to upper 90s now, more along the lines of where he was coming out of high school, that's big. And that tells me, okay, that's sustainable. Same kind of conversation we had with Maverick Rizzy. Jaden Newt might be your new fire, guy to put out the fires. And again, he can give you a little bit of length, like Rizzy, inning in 2/3, inning in 1/3, can serve as a bridge, just like you wanted Connor Binge to do. But you've seen him now not pitch the last 2 weekends, and they're big SEC weekends. They're paring things down even more. So, I look at this bullpen going forward, and I see Cowan, Rizzy, your 2 lefty specialists, and Williams and Primo, and then Newt. Yo, that's 5 arms right there. You're looking to build more consistency, but I think what you're seeing in the stuff points to more consistency coming. The last piece would be Chase Shores. And I thought Chase Shores pitched very, very well against Texas A&M. I would venture to tell you that that's the best he's looked this year. I thought he pitched really well against Oklahoma in some tough conditions. But I thought he pitched well against Mississippi State as well. But that outing from Shores in the bullpen, I look at that and I'm like, okay, he can give you something on the weekend pitching like that. And that's a guy who could give you longer relief, but I think he's better served in those short spurts like you saw a week ago. He's the one you still want to see more consistency from. But I'll tell you what was most encouraging for me there was the slider. He didn't have it early in that outing, but he found it late. And that was huge for him to be able to retire, the 5, 6 in a row, whatever it was that he did. If you can get Shores on board in that same vein that you feel like you have Rizzy and Newt at right now, where he can give you an inning and a third, inning and 2/3 of relief, maybe a little longer than that, then you're cooking in the bullpen. But you've certainly seen them pare it down even more, where I think you're going to see Rizzy, Primo, Williams, Ware, Newt, and Shores. Those are going to be your first guys, and then you go to Cowan after that. Unless you have an opportunity to just step on the throat and you go to Zach Cowan, or step on the throat and you want to go to Case and Evans. Because then you could have a guy like Ware start a game 3, or, something, things of that nature. But you are starting to see the roles defined, and it's happening at a great time. This will obviously be a big test against Arkansas this weekend, but it's actually one of the reasons I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable about LSU having to face that talented and that deadly of an offense like the Arkansas Razorbacks have. I like the signs from the bullpen, and I think you're finally there. Almost. You need a few more outings to be like, okay, yep, there it is. But I like where they're at a lot. They're definitely rounding into form. All right. That is going to wrap it up for today's show. Please smash the like button. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. If you have not already, please share, follow on social media. Go to Gotlit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com, and be here next time for more. We're previewing LSU and Arkansas on Musso at the Box.